She saw the message, and even then, she didn't reply. It wasn't distraction. It wasn't rushing. It was a choice. While you mentally reviewed every sentence of the last conversation trying to find the mistake that never existed, she laughed at another message, commented on a story, lived her life, as if you had never existed. And it is in this silence that the truth settles in with unbearable brutality. You are not a priority. You are scenery, an extra on the stage where she is the star. And the more you try to understand, justify, or wait, the more she confirms that she has control over your attention. The phrase, "if she stops texting you, text her sister," isn't about revenge. It's about liberation. It represents a hidden code of the social game, a silent manifesto against the emotional submission that transforms men into emotional orbits for women who don't even remember they exist. Most people hear this phrase and laugh. They think it's exaggerated, childish, sexist. But what they don't realize is that this irony carries an antidote, a spark of psychological power. Because what she's really saying is, if she can ignore you, it's because she knows you're available, that you'll wait, that you'll stay there, standing still, trapped, harmless. And while you wait for a response, another guy makes her laugh effortlessly. Another guy doesn't even care if she responds or not, because he's not asking for attention. He's being fought over by her. The problem was never her stopping responding. The problem is you still wanting her to respond. True emotional slavery begins when your worth becomes dependent on the presence of someone who doesn't see you. You're not in love with her. You're addicted to the illusion of being validated by her. You don't want her. You want to be enough for someone who discarded you. And that's not love, it's need. The kind of need that transforms you into everything she despises: predictable, available, desperate. When Nietzsche wrote that happiness is the feeling that power grows, he wasn't just talking about external dominance. He was talking about an internal feeling of expansion. When you stop kneeling emotionally, something inside you begins to grow. You return to your center. You stop begging for love and begin to emanate value. And that's when the game changes. Because in this world, nobody chases after those who chase after them. Everyone chases after those who are difficult to reach. Seduction begins where scarcity is perceived. And the end of desire happens when you become too obvious. Robert Greene, in The Art of Seduction, wrote that charm lies in distance, that seductive power is born from mystery, from strategic absence, from the art of provoking curiosity without giving everything away. The opposite of that is you, sending good morning messages, demanding a response, explaining yourself for existing. You're not being rejected for being bad. You're being rejected for being too transparent, too easy, too available. Seduction demands tension. Desire demands doubt. And power demands that you be able to walk away. The phrase "text her sister" only has value when it's not about her sister. It's about stopping caring about those who don't value you. It's about shifting your attention to those who notice you. It's about stepping out of the line of desperate people and walking like someone who knows they could be chosen, but doesn't depend on it to feel alive. That's the turning point. And it begins with deconstructing your biggest mistake. Thinking that being good, present, and caring makes you desirable. Ready? Then welcome to the fall of the nice guy. Because that's where the real revolution begins. You were taught to be good, to be kind, patient, present, to listen, to respect, not to force anything. You grew up hearing that women like sincere, polite men who treat them well, who don't lie, don't cheat, don't play games. You believed in this idea like an emotional religion. And every time you acted according to it, you were rejected with the same intensity. Because the world doesn't reward intentions. It responds to perception. And the perception of a nice guy isn't of a valuable man, but of a predictable man, without risk, without power. The woman doesn't say this because she doesn't even understand it. But she feels it. And her desire isn't driven by what's right. It's driven by what throws her off balance. What challenges her. What makes her wonder what comes next. The nice guy is the opposite of that. He's the open manual. He's the movie without mystery. The dinner without spice. He's the guy who gives everything away before even being invited in. And this excessive generosity, when it wasn't asked for, becomes a burden, not a gift. It becomes pressure. He does everything, expects everything, and demands it in his gaze. He demands it in his attention. He demands it in the question, why doesn't she feel the same? But she never promised to feel it. He only assumed that his kindness would be enough to buy love. That's the mistake. Kindness doesn't buy desire. It doesn't attract, it doesn't seduce, it doesn't create sexual tension. Kindness is a virtue, but when it comes with hidden neediness, it transforms into emotional debt. It suffocates, it pressures, it begs, even when he smiles. The nice guy lives in a state of denial. He doesn't think he's needy. He thinks he's romantic. He thinks he's doing everything right, and that the problem is the world not recognizing it. But the truth is different. He's playing a game that's over before it even begins. Because the rules he follows don't work in the realm of attraction. And worse, he feels morally superior to other guys. To the jerks. To those who use and throw away. He thinks he's better because he treats well, as if that were a differentiating factor. But the truth is, he treats well to be loved. Not out of conviction, out of disguised strategy. He doesn't play games, but he uses emotional blackmail. He doesn't lie, but he manipulates with silent guilt. He doesn't force, but he suffocates with constant presence. The woman doesn't run away from him because he's bad. She runs away because she senses he's empty of center, full of expectations without any anchor. And when she feels that, she loses respect. And desire dies. Because desire and admiration go hand in hand. You don't desire what you pity. You don't desire what kneels at your feet begging for affection. The great tragedy of the nice guy is not realizing that he's more controlling than the guys he judges. He wants the woman's love like a child wants a toy, hungrily, urgently, desperately. He transforms her into a source of self-esteem, into walking validation. And if she says no, he crumbles, not because he loves her, but because he lost the mirror where he felt important. And it's at this point that he reveals his shadow. He starts to blame, to judge, to call her ungrateful, cold, indecisive. He transforms into the opposite of what he pretended to be. Because the nice guy is an unconscious charade. He's not good. He's conditioned. He was trained to please in order to survive, to be accepted, to avoid rejection. And when rejection comes, because it always does, he collapses. He becomes the martyr, the wronged good guy. But deep down, he's just a man who never learned to exist without external approval. And the world doesn't reward this kind of man. The world forgets him. Desire rejects him. Society swallows him. And he returns to his room, to his solitude, to his ignored messages, telling himself that he will still find someone who values him as he is. Except he doesn't even know who he is. Because he spent his whole life trying to be what others expected. And this is where the fatal contradiction comes in. He's too good to be real. He never shows a shadow, never shows strength, never sets limits. He accepts everything, says yes to everything, and therefore loses value. Because he who is incapable of saying no has no identity, and he who has no identity has no magnetism. The truly magnetic man is not the one who pleases, it's the one who knows himself. It's the one who commands respect without needing to raise his voice. It's the one who doesn't fear losing a woman because he has already found himself as a man. The nice guy isn't rejected because he's kind. He's rejected because he's weak. Because his kindness is a bargaining chip. Because his presence is pleading. Because his love is a trap, an emotional hole where the woman enters and feels she will be sucked in. The archetype of the nice guy is the most dangerous. Because he is socially accepted, but sexually despised. He is the guy that all women say they want, but none truly desire. He is the one who ends up in the friend zone, in emotional limbo, on the list of those who are good but not suitable for a relationship. And his anger grows, because he never understood that love is not begged for, attraction is not negotiable, respect is not pleaded for, and desire is not born from presence. It is born from tension, from scarcity, from contrast. He will never be desired as long as he remains obvious, as long as he continues to think that more attention generates more connection, as long as he believes that more effort generates more commitment. Female desire does not follow linear logic. It is chaotic, emotional, symbolic. It is activated by power, by unpredictability, by emotional contrast. And the nice guy offers everything but that. He is predictable, totally legible, deeply secure. Too much security kills desire. You don't desire what's guaranteed, you desire what can slip away. And that's why she disappeared, and that's why she doesn't respond. because she already understands that you're there, standing still, waiting, even without any promise of return. The nice guy isn't just nice, he's a prisoner of his own hope, and that hope is what destroys him. Because the time he spends waiting for a response from a woman who ignores him is the same time that another man, less emotionally needy, is occupying the space he left vacant. And that other man isn't necessarily better. But he knows something the nice guy never understood. Those who are desired don't beg. Those who are desired don't offer themselves. Those who are desired become the prize. And the prize doesn't send messages demanding attention. It simply disappears. And that's when she realizes what she's lost. But for that to happen, you need to break free from the logic of pleasing. You need to kill that social persona you created to be accepted. You need to stop being good and start being genuine, with presence, with boundaries, with power. Because the opposite of that is being ignored for the rest of your life, while you fool yourself into thinking you're waiting for the right woman, when in reality she's already passed you by. And you were too busy trying to be nice. There's a silent, almost invisible mechanism that determines who will be desired and who will be discarded. It has nothing to do with beauty, money, or fame, although these factors help amplify it. This mechanism is called scarcity, and if you still haven't understood how it works, it's probably because you're always on the side that's ignored. The human mind doesn't desire what is abundant, it desires what eludes you. What can be lost, what is present but never guaranteed. Scarcity is the basis of emotional valuation, and what is perceived as rare activates the same compulsion circuits in the brain that addiction activates. The woman who replies late, who is busy, who doesn't give you everything at once, this woman sticks in your mind like an emotional tattoo. You think about her even without wanting to. You try to understand the signs. You analyze every response, every delay, every period. She doesn't need to be the most beautiful. She just needs to be scarce. And that's enough to awaken the sleeping hunter in you. Now consider the contrast. The woman who responds too quickly, who praises you excessively, who gives herself completely without you having done anything. You lose interest, not because you're malicious, but because the mind is made to seek what requires effort. The same applies to you. When you're always available, when you respond in the same second, when you're at her disposal without her having to do anything, you become emotionally cheap. This destroys the perception of value. Because what is too easy is devalued, even if it's true. Scarcity is what creates tension, and tension is what activates desire. Robert Greene teaches that all power is born from the ability to strategically absent oneself. Constant presence is noise. Planned absence is music. And that's exactly where men go wrong. They want to conquer a woman, and on impulse, they throw themselves at her. They show everything. They say everything. They're always there. They text before she misses them. They respond before she thinks. They call before she wants to hear their voice. The result? She gets bored before she even gets attached. The scarcity game isn't about pretending to be busy. It's about becoming a man whose attention is too valuable to be given to just anyone, at any time, in any way. Because attention, in the realm of seduction, is a valuable currency. And when you distribute this currency indiscriminately, you go bankrupt emotionally. The price of always being present is becoming invisible. Her mind needs to feel the empty space of your absence to value your presence. This isn't manipulation. This is neuroscience. Studies show that intermittent stimuli, those that appear and disappear, generate more dopamine than constant stimuli. It's the same mechanism as a slot machine. Unpredictable rewards are addictive. Predictable ones are saturating. That's why you need to master the art of emotional contrast. Be sweet, then cold. Intense, then neutral. Profound, then absent. Not as a game, but because contrast amplifies desire. The woman who receives everything from you all the time has no mental space to imagine. And where there is no imagination, there is no seduction. Because desire thrives on what is not possessed, on what one wants to touch but has not yet received. It is in this void that tension is born, and it is in this tension that power is built. Scarcity creates the stage, selective presence creates the script, and mystery directs the spectacle. Cleopatra was not just beauty. She was selective presence, emotional intelligence, and the strategic use of silence. She knew that being desired required more than surrender. It required absence. It required dramatic absence. A withdrawal that hurts, but is addictive. A distance that bothers, but attracts. When you understand this, you begin to realize that your mistake was never what you said, but when you said it, how you said it, and how present you were before she was ready to receive. The man who masters scarcity understands that value is perception, and that perceived value grows when you disappear at the right moment. It's not about disappearing forever. It's about disappearing with purpose, making yourself missed intentionally. You need to become the man she misses even before she understands why. But that only happens when you stop living to respond and start existing to impact. Your attention cannot be given freely. It needs to be earned, not out of pride, but by the natural order of seduction. Because everything that is given too much dies young, and everything she is sure she possesses ceases to be special. Scarcity demands courage, because she will test you. She will text just to see if you're still there. She will disappear for days. She will post to gauge your reaction. She will provoke disguised jealousy. She will flirt with absence. All of this is part of the unconscious game of social validation. If you react, you lose. If you beg, you kneel. If you demand, you die in desire. The only possible answer is strategic silence, a shift in focus, personal prioritization, building a life where she is not the center, but merely a possible piece. The scarce man doesn't pretend. He lives. He has options. He has purpose. He has a backbone. And that's why she desires him, because she realizes that, with him, every answer is worth its weight in gold. Every encounter is a privilege. Every conversation has weight. Because he doesn't offer himself, he is conquered. The woman who realizes this changes. She stops testing, stops playing games, stops disappearing. Because she realizes that if she doesn't value him, another will. And if she loses, there's no going back. That's the power of scarcity. It's not about absence for absence's sake. It's about absence that teaches, that reveals, that provokes. The absence of the man of value is a reminder of what can be lost. And nothing awakens more desire than the fear of loss. The scarce man doesn't need to raise his voice. He doesn't need to threaten. He doesn't need to prove anything. His simple withdrawal makes more noise than 1,000 declarations of love. Because she feels it. Because she perceives it. Because his absence has a presence. It has a shadow. It has a scent. It has a scar. And that's why the scarce man is remembered even when he's not there, while the overly available man is forgotten, even when he's there. If you want to tip the psychological scales, you need to step out of the shop window. You need to stop showing off. You need to stop trying to convince. You need to stop chasing and start walking down another road. The road where you don't need to be accepted. Because you've already approved yourself, where you don't need to be desired, because your value is independent of the desires of others. This change isn't a tactic, it's internal. It's not a trick, it's identity. When you internalize scarcity as a lifestyle, everything changes. You attract effortlessly. You captivate without words. You impact without needing to be present all the time, because now you've become the prize. And the prize doesn't beg, it doesn't offer itself, it doesn't respond in the same second. The prize watches from afar and chooses when, where, and who. And that's exactly why she comes back. It's not about her sister, it never was. That phrase, text her sister, wasn't born from anger. It was born from exhaustion, from the inner limit a man reaches when he realizes he's given too much, waited too long, hidden too much. Her sister is just a symbol, an archetypal figure. She represents what comes after enough is enough. She represents the turning point. The moment you understand you're no longer going to live trapped in the expectation of someone else's attention. Because the power shifts when you stop waiting. The world spins differently when you change your center of gravity. You stop orbiting her will and start building your own field of attraction. And at that moment, something happens. She feels it. Because what's left behind starts to stir when it realizes it's lost control. When you send the message, literal or metaphorical, to her sister, you're saying, I don't need you anymore to feel alive. It's a gesture of detachment, of inner rebellion, of emotional independence. And that's what truly bothers her. The phrase is a code. A gesture of insubordination against the narrative in which the man is always the one who waits, the one who insists, the one who stays. You're not being cruel, you're freeing yourself from the figure of the emotional slave. What she feels when you disappear tests her. What you do when you're ignored defines her. Most despair, beg, crawl, collapse emotionally. But the man who turns the tables laughs, leaves the scene, texts his sister, not as revenge, but as a message. The message that he won't beg for anything that doesn't come with reciprocity. The truth is brutal. You don't attract when you demonstrate neediness. You attract when you exude detachment, when your attention is rare, when your energy is selective, and when you can, lightly and calmly, shift your focus to another place without noise. This disarms, deconstructs, inverts the magnetic field of the relationship, because the woman who realizes you're no longer reacting to her absence starts to wonder where you are, and with whom, and why. And now, silence becomes provocation, and absence becomes symbolic presence. Because she knows, before you waited, now you've disappeared, and what was certain is lost. The phrase text her sister is like a signature, a mark left on the narrative. It's the moment where you prove you don't need anyone to feel valued, and the world loves those who don't need it. A woman desires the man who doesn't beg. He doesn't demand. He doesn't expect anything, but he also doesn't accept being ignored without consequence. Because what is ignored and remains present becomes ridiculous, and what is ignored and disappears becomes a memory. And desire is memory combined with scarcity. The gesture of texting her sister, if done literally, would be immature. But when done symbolically, it's a masterpiece of emotional intelligence. You don't need to text her sister, but you need to show, with your actions, that you won't be the man who waits for a woman who has already decided to leave. True power lies in not needing to explain or threaten. Just exit the narrative with such dignity that the absence speaks for you. Because the truth is, she knows how you feel. She always knew. And that's precisely why she tested your limits. A woman tests what she believes will yield. She pressures where she feels fragility. And the man who resists calmly without drama, without begging, becomes someone else. He ceases to be needy and becomes the standard. He ceases to be what she expects, and it becomes what is chosen by those who understand the value. That's the game most people don't see, because they're too caught up in the pain of being rejected. But rejection isn't the end, it's a portal, a turning point. It's when you choose whether you continue being the guy who texts in the middle of the night saying, "I missed you," or whether you transform into the man who looks in the mirror and says, "She'll miss me." The difference lies in the decision, in the change of posture, in the silence charged with power, in no longer responding, in no longer chasing after her, in no longer accepting the bare minimum. The text to your sister is the final metaphor of a journey that began when you realize that your value isn't in the affection you receive, but in the standard you maintain. And whoever maintains a standard attracts a new standard. That's what she realizes when you stop insisting that now you're on another level. And maybe, just maybe, she no longer has access. Ultimately, the game was never about her. It was about you. About how much you were still willing to give up just to be noticed. About how much your need to be chosen blinded you to the fact that you should never have put yourself in that line. Because those who understand their own worth don't wait. They take a stand. They decide. They disappear. The phrase, "If she stops texting you, text her sister," doesn't teach disrespect. It teaches boundaries. It shows that true desire is born from imminent loss, from doubt, from risk. And that a man who knows when to withdraw is infinitely more powerful than one who persists out of pity. You can continue seeking to be loved by someone who doesn't see you. Or you can become so magnetic that the absence of your presence speaks louder than 1,000 unanswered messages. The choice is yours. And the real world has no patience for those who wait too long. In one of the most underrated passages of the Forbidden Manual, it is written, "The attention you beg for becomes the weapon that weakens you. The desire you silently provoke, that is untamable." Think about it. Constant presence can win companionship, but only strategic scarcity earns respect. And if she stopped responding, maybe the universe is giving you permission to stop begging and start reigning. Now comment here, "I am what she lost." I want to know who understood the lesson. And if this video gave you an insight, share it with a friend who's still waiting for a message. Maybe it's time for him to send another one, but to his sister.